Hello, Team Brantford. My name is Steve Babcock. I'm the manager of corporate initiatives. I'd like to welcome you to what I'm calling the Brantford Sessions. There are a lot of really cool things happening across the city right now, and so I decided to start this video blog as an opportunity to recognize staff and celebrate successes, but also I want to celebrate failures as well. There's a lot of really good learning opportunities that come from failure. We all have different experiences and perspectives, and I want to talk about that, and I want to hear about the great things that you're doing at the city. I will warn you that I've never done anything like this before. I'm not a polished interviewer. I'm not trained in video editing. These are casual conversations with real staff members. They're not paid actors. You're not going to see any commercial breaks because I don't have any sponsors for this. But you know what? I want to take a chance and see how this goes. Maybe you'll love it. Maybe you'll hate it. I guess we'll find out. At this point, this is a chance that I'm willing to take because it's worth it to me. And if this bombs, I'll learn from it, I will grow, and I will try something different next time. In this episode, I'm speaking with Wanda Harding, who's the manager of accounting, and Kris Olson, who's the manager of corporate information, and we're discussing integration projects. In this episode, we're going to be talking about what integration projects are, why it's important to look cross-functionally, and how this interesting relationship between IT and finance was formed. So without further ado, welcome Wanda and Kris to the Brantford Sessions, and let's jump right into this.
Maybe just give me an overview of what it is we're talking about when we talk about integration projects.
The concept of integration really came to the forefront back in 2015 for me. So that's when Parks and Finance, which again, a completely unnatural partnership, joined forces. And what we were trying to do was integrate our financial system with our facility booking system. So we spent a lot of tires and a lot of hours doing that. It wasn't pretty, but we actually were successful in getting there. So that sort of sparked the interest. And back sort of in 2018, another unlikely pairing was with IT and finance. And IT sort of upped the game by the introduction of an application called SharePoint. So once we brought SharePoint into the mix and started to give us an opportunity to streamline things, it was a complete game changer for opportunities. And really going forward, this has been now our gold standard in terms of how we look at all of our integration opportunities between other systems and financial systems.
Why is it important that this work is done in more of a cross-functional fashion rather than, in isolation?
Historically, what's happened is a lot of times that a need was identified, a staff person would do some research. They would go out and find a product that met a very specific need, and then we would purchase that software, let's say, and implement it without necessarily looking at sort of a stem to stern kind of approach. And we want, that's what we're trying to do differently now, because what we were finding was we'd have this great piece of software that worked really great for one application, and then we'd have to do workarounds in order to get it to a point where we could, tie it into the financial system or whatever other system that somebody might need. So we're just trying to approach this differently, going, if you're going to buy this software, how does that already work with the existing software that we use, rather than it being an afterthought.
Cool, I love that. All right. So I want to exploit this relationship that is merged from this. So, when I think about finance and IT, these aren't necessarily departments that totally bond all the time. There can be some friction through these departments. And obviously you two have a very strong relationship through this work. I'm just wondering how that partnership formed and if there's anything that you've perhaps learned to appreciate about the other's trade as a result of the work you've been doing together.
So Kris has always been finance's go-to in terms of financial system support and guidance. So he's steered the city through major upgrades to our financial systems, and he's sort of been the catalyst for expanding our opportunities by encouraging us to take a look at processes through a different lens. So it was really a no-brainer that if finance wanted to move anything forward or, sort of push the limits a little bit, we had to have Kris involved in the process.
IT people and finance people tend to look at things very differently. The finance folks, and we have such a strong finance team here. There's so many great people, and but they look at things a certain way, and as they should. So they're focused on the numbers. They're focused on the auditability. They're focused on the segregation of duties. All the important parts to make sure you have a financially strong process. Whereas IT people don't always think like that. We tend to leap into creating things and fixing stuff. We like to get our hands dirty quickly and get into the details. So this is where having those different skill sets, you really need to work with each other and understand where you're coming from. Because sometimes, in IT, we can say something that sounds so clear to us, but outside of IT, nobody knows what we're talking about because I don't know if it's the language or what it is, but and the same thing from finance, right? So I think a lot of the successes we've had have been based on some personal relationships as well between key people in IT and finance, where you start to trust each other after being through successes and failures. You're not afraid to get someone on the phone. I think it's a lot about trust between individuals, really, that makes a big difference.
Yeah, I agree. That's a interesting point for sure. Let's keep on that path. So, Kris, you were talking about successes. What you guys have been working on this for quite some time. What would you say has been the most rewarding aspect of this work so far?
So to be honest, the biggest reward has been the collaboration of efforts and sort of the positive encouragement that it brings. These kinds of changes are daunting, especially when we first got started. And you need to have someone who believes the way that you do. And, Kris is bang on when he talks about the trust aspect of it. When you have a trusting sort of working relationship with somebody, you don't mind being challenged. Actually, you want to be challenged with your ideas and so forth. But that trust part of it is huge. Also, the feeling that you're making a difference in your organization is very rewarding. It makes you want to move to the next project where you can have that kind of an impact. And we're finding that with the groups that we're working with. It's just creating momentum.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, Wanda and I have had we've had successes, but we've had lots of failures too, and disagreements over the years, right? So there's been times where we had major disagreements, but you know what? When you trust each other, you bounce back, and you might be a little angry for a while, but eventually it doesn't matter, right, Wanda?
Absolutely.
Yeah, it happens. But for the challenging, and actually the rewarding part, I think, is being able to look back once you've done a project. And in a lot of ways, you've never really done a project. Once you get to a certain point in a project, looking back and saying, wow, that really worked out well. And you forget about the months of work it took and the thousands of emails and the hundreds of hours that you poured into it. Once it's there and you can see it, you look back and say that's awesome. And then it just gives you more fuel to do more.
All right, there you have it. That is the inaugural episode of the Brantford Sessions. Wanda and Kris are doing some awesome work, and I've enjoyed my conversation with them so much that I actually have had to split this into multiple episodes. But before we get to future episodes, I'd like to tell you just about this light bulb moment that I'm having as I'm reflecting on this conversation. This idea of collaboration that came up as a theme through this discussion is so important in municipal government. But collaboration isn't always about agreement. In fact, sometimes you need to disagree in order to get to a better place. Disagreements can be awkward, they can be challenging to manage, but when you have a trusting relationship like what Kris and Wanda do, you can disagree in a respectful way. And you can challenge each other, and you can push the limits, and you can get to a point where you can fail in a safe space. And that's really where meaningful change happens. So I'd like you to think about the relationships you have here at the city. And I hope that you have a buddy that pushes you to do better and is also there for you to help you learn and grow when you fail. Stay tuned for the next episode of the Brantford Sessions, where I continue my conversation with Wanda and Kris. Now, I have to warn you, this next episode is pretty juicy. We're going to be talking about the F word. So, of course, the F word is failure, which is a very important key message I want to get across in this video blog. And also, Kris and Wanda are also going to be sharing their personal journeys on how they developed a continuous improvement mindset. So that's all for now. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions or a comment or feedback, I've got pretty thick skin, so feel free to throw some critical feedback my way. I also love to get praise as well. But most importantly, if you're working on something cool that you think others would like to know about, reach out. I'd love to chat. Talk to you soon.